on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 10th of June 2025. Culture and heritage institutions responsible for upholding social welfare have collapsed, says President Anura Dissanayake. Also emphasizes the need to revive a cultured, law-abiding and virtuous society as the nation celebrates Posonpoya Day. Remanded, over 60 prisoners unlawfully released under presidential pardons on Christmas and Independence Day, CID reveals before court. Suspended Commissioner General of Prisons remanded until tomorrow. High-level visit. The first Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund to make an official visit to Sri Lanka next week. Inclusivity. Central Bank Governor advocates for incorporating alternative financial data sources to better assess the creditworthiness of individuals excluded from formal financial systems.
Cinec Campus Open Day. May masa 3 වෙනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට Cinec Campus පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9, Sri Lanka's most trusted news source. I'm Tatya Aronayake joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. We begin with your top story. Buddhists across Sri Lanka celebrated Posonpoya Day today, which commemorates Sri Lanka receiving the Buddhist philosophy upon the visit of Arahat Mahinda Thera, the son of Emperor Asoka of India. Thousands of devotees engaged in religious rites and observances with celebrations centered around the historic city of Anuradhapura. Meanwhile, the Derana Vandana Poson program, organized by the Derana Media Network, was held in Anuradhapura for the 16th consecutive year.
Posonpoya Day, which falls on the full moon day in June, is one of the significant Buddhist festivals in Sri Lanka, as it marks the day on which Arahat Mahinda Thera, the son of Emperor Asoka of India, introduced Buddhism to the island in the 3rd century BC. Buddhist devotees across the island engaged in religious rites to celebrate this historical event, while celebrations centered around Anuradhapura. Several public transport services have been put in place for devotees visiting religious sites, including Ruwanwali Mahasaya, the Srima Bodhi, Lovam Mahapaya, Thuparama, Mirisavatiya and Abhayagiriya Stupa, the Jetavanarama Stupa and Lankarama. Several pandals were set up within and around the sacred city of Anuradhapura since last night, with numerous Bhakti performances expressing the unwavering devotion of Buddhists. In the meantime, over 3,000 police personnel have been deployed to ensure the safety and security of devotees visiting Anuradhapura. Police life-saving officials too were deployed to ensure the safety of devotees bathing in reservoirs. Meanwhile, several religious programs were organized at temples across the island today. The Derana Vandana program, organized by the Derana Media Network in line with Posonpoya Day, commenced at the Ruwanwali Mahasaya for the 16th consecutive time this morning. Numerous religious observances as well as Dhamma discussions took place as part of the Derana Vandana program since this morning. The religious observances saw the participation by the founder of the Derana Media Network, parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira. A live broadcast of all religious observances organized in view of the Posonpoya Day was provided through TV Derana as well as FM Derana for viewers and listeners at home. Meanwhile, the Vadirata Miyuguna Puravara Poson Zone, organized by the Derana Media Network at the Jana Uruma Buddhist Center of the indigenous community, commenced this afternoon. The Aruna newspaper organized the Aruna Loka Poson 2025 program at the Mulkirigala Rajamaha Vihara, which was held throughout the day today. The occasion was attended by COO of Liberty Publishers Vijit Chandrasena. Meanwhile, 10,000 books printed by the Aruna newspaper company containing Buddha Vandana and Bodhi Puja Gatha, as well as 10,000 special volumes of Aruna containing information about the Mulkirigala Rajama Vihara, were distributed among devotees. In the meantime, a blood donation campaign was organized by Manusad Derana, responsibility arm of the Derana Media Network at Leeson's Hospital in Ragama, in view of Posonpoya Day. In his message for Posonpoya Day, President Anura Dissanayake asserted that the social, economic and political transformation Sri Lankans aspire can only be realized through the revival of a cultured and virtuous society. In the meantime, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya, in her message, noted that the government is deeply committed to upholding the message of non-violence and harmonious coexistence brought by Arahat Mahinda Thera, ensuring its continued relevance in the present day. Meanwhile, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa called on Sri Lankans to rise towards a self-sufficient nation by following the Buddhist path.
The State Poson Festival commenced ceremonially today at the Mihintale Rajamaha Vihara, marking its return after a 2-year hiatus. Addressing the gathering, President Anuradha Dissanayake emphasized that safeguarding Mihintale, the spiritual cradle of the nation, is a fundamental duty of any government. He underscored the importance of preserving and honouring this sacred site, which stands as a cornerstone of Sri Lanka's cultural and religious heritage.
The State Poson Festival, themed Enlighten the World with Buddha's Dhamma, is being celebrated with great reverence, centering around the sacred cities of Mihintale and Tantrimale. In line with tradition, the State Poson Festival was inaugurated this morning at the sacred Mihintale Rajamaha Vihara under the patronage of President Anuradha Dissanayake, who attended as the chief guest. The President's participation followed a special invitation extended by the chief incumbent of the Mihintale Rajamaha Vihara, the Most Venerable Walava Hanguna Vave Dhammaratana Thera. Minister of Buddha Sasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs, Professor Hiniduma Sunil Senavi, Minister of Trade, Commerce, Food Security and Cooperative Development, Wasantha Samarasinghe, were also present at the event.
Former
President Ranil Wickremesinghe made a mistake during the past 2 years. That was a dark chapter for this country. However, that mistake was rectified by incumbent President Anuradha Dissanayake today. During the past 2 years, no civil defence force personnel were deployed to safeguard this sacred site. This country was led by such corrupt leaders in the past.
The
arrival of Arahat Mahinda Thera brought about deep transformation in the hearts and minds of our people. It would be no exaggeration to say that Mihintale shaped the development of our country, not just spiritually, but culturally, socially and even politically. Indeed, the introduction of Buddhism to Sri Lanka laid the foundation for a refined and compassionate civilization. It would be unthinkable to celebrate the Poson Festival in any meaningful way without acknowledging Mihintale and the deep spiritual significance it holds for our nation. I cannot fathom how previous administrations chose to overlook this truth. It is, without a question, the foremost responsibility of any government to honour, protect and continually commemorate the sacred ground upon which our heritage was built. Certain institutions responsible for ensuring social welfare have experienced a significant collapse. Some police officers who are responsible for enforcing the law and ensuring public security have reached a point where they protect criminals. Similarly, the Prisons Department, which bears the critical responsibility of ensuring the secure and lawful custody of inmates, has been found to have unlawfully released certain prisoners. Therefore, it is our utmost responsibility to establish a culture where all citizens and institutions are able to perform their tasks and responsibilities properly.
Suspended Commissioner General of Prisons Tushar Upul was remanded until tomorrow after being produced before the Colombo Additional Magistrate Manjula Ratnayake in relation to legal proceedings against the illegal use of the presidential pardon to release an inmate from the Anuradhapura prison. During proceedings, it was revealed that 68 prisoners have been similarly released illegally on Christmas and Independence Day.
The Criminal Investigation Department yesterday summoned suspended Commissioner General of Prisons Tushar Upul in connection with investigations into the illegal use of the presidential pardon to release prisoners. Upul was arrested by investigating officers last night after recording statements for over 4 hours. He was produced before Colombo Additional Magistrate Manjula Ratnayake this afternoon. Presenting facts on behalf of the CID, Additional Solicitor General Dileepa Piris submitted to court that the name of the inmate released illegally from the Anuradhapura prison does not appear on the list of the 338 prisoners approved for presidential pardon. He went on to say that 57 prisoners not approved to receive the presidential pardon had been released on Christmas Day 2024, while 11 had been released on Independence Day 2025, and that the exact number of prisoners so released on Vesak Poya Day this year was still being ascertained. Additional Solicitor General Piris, who pointed out that this is a violation of not only executive but also judicial power, added that investigations have been lodged against all prison superintendents, starting with the Commissioner General, including probes into their assets. However, Defence Counsel Darshana Kurupu maintained that his client had acted in accordance with the circular issued by the Presidential Secretariat. He asserted that certain inmates became eligible for the presidential pardon after the issuance of the initial list of prisoners eligible for release on Independence Day, Vesak Poya Day and Christmas Day. The Defence Counsel went on to say that prison officials are authorized to submit the names of such inmates to the Ministry of Justice, but those names do not appear on the initial list. He asserted that if there has been an irregularity in the release of inmates, the Secretary to the President and Secretary to the Ministry of Justice should be named as defendants in the case, and since the inmate was released from the Anuradhapura prison, it is the superintendent of that prison who should be held accountable. The counsel for the defence submitted that there is no evidence that his client had aided and abetted the illegal release, nor can he influence the investigation due to the suspension from duties, and requested that the court release the suspect on bail. After considering the facts, Colombo Additional Magistrate Manjula Ratnayaka scheduled the matter to be considered again tomorrow before the Colombo Chief Magistrate and ordered the suspect to be remanded until then. Meanwhile, it is reported that W.M. Atula Tilakaratne, the inmate released illegally from the Anuradhapura prison, has fled the area where he resides. The Criminal Investigation Department said an extensive investigation is underway to arrest the suspect. In a related development, the CID yesterday recorded statements from Commissioner of Prisons, Operations and Intelligence Gamini B. Disanayaka, who is also the spokesman for the department. This was in relation to his signature appearing on documents pertaining to the prisoners released illegally under the presidential pardon.
සිනෙක් කැම්පස් ඕපන් ඩේ මැයි මස 3 වැනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට සිනෙක් කැම්පස් පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Meanwhile, opposition politicians question the rationale behind the arrest of the Commissioner General of Prisons in connection with the illegal release of inmates under the presidential pardon. They also raised concerns about the accountability of the Ministry of Justice in the process. With that, here's a look at the comments made by the opposition regarding this issue.
To the best of my knowledge, the list of inmates being released from Anuradhapura prison is submitted to the President's office by the superintendent of that prison, not by the Commissioner General of Prisons. It is widely acknowledged that Tusharu Puldeniya, a batchmate of President Anuradha Disanayaka at Kalani University, is the most genuine person to have ever served as Commissioner General. When government officials are being sent home in this manner, how can any official consider even signing a letter? This is a clear indication of the collapse of a failing state which is losing faith in its public sector employees. Mark my words, this government will collapse because of this very issue. We are pleased that investigations triggered by this sudden issue have revealed that many inmates who were released under presidential pardon during previous administrations were not released legally or through court orders. What is the role of the Ministry of Justice in this matter? Specifically, the ministry is responsible for overseeing the entire process of releasing prisoners under presidential pardon. This list was not sent directly to the President's office from the prison. So what role did the ministry, the minister and the secretary to the ministry play? What is their responsibility and accountability? Governance has either collapsed or is collapsing. In any other democratic state, the responsible minister would take responsibility. Arresting a single official will not resolve this issue. The Cabinet of Ministers has intervened in this matter. Clear decisions have been made. As a result, the personnel responsible for this issue have been suspended and are subjected to disciplinary action.
The first Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Dr. Geeta Gopinath, is scheduled to embark on an official visit to Sri Lanka on the 15th and 16th of June. This is the first visit of a serving First Deputy Managing Director of the IMF to Sri Lanka since 2005. During the visit, Dr. Gopinath is set to attend as the guest of honour at the Conference on Sri Lanka's Road to Recovery, Debt and Governance, jointly hosted by the Ministry of Finance, Central Bank of Sri Lanka and the IMF. The conference is scheduled to be held on the 16th of June. Against a backdrop where Sri Lanka is at a midpoint of the IMF-supported reform program, the conference aims to reflect upon the lessons learned from Sri Lanka's experience in restoring macroeconomic stability, implementing debt restructuring and governance reforms, and to focus on the challenges ahead. Additionally, the First Deputy Managing Director is expected to hold bilateral discussions with Sri Lankan authorities and several key stakeholders on the IMF's engagement with Sri Lanka. The U.S. Justice Department's Office of Overseas Prosecutorial Development, Assistance and Training recently worked with new prosecutors from Sri Lanka's Attorney General's Department on building trial skills. The U.S. Embassy in Sri Lanka, in a post on X yesterday, said these skills included delivering powerful opening and closing arguments and examining witnesses on the stand. The embassy further asserted that these prosecutors will soon take on smugglers of narcotics, humans and other illicit goods. The U.S. mission went on to say that holding transnational criminals accountable strengthens justice security and the rule of law for both Sri Lanka and the United States. The Excise Department has collected 104% of the revenue target set for the first 4 months of this year. This was mentioned by excise officials during a recent meeting with Parliament's Committee on Ways and Means. The Excise Department also revealed that there has been a considerable decline in counterfeit liquor bottles identified during raids since the introduction of a QR code system for verifying their authenticity.
The Committee on Ways and Means convened in Parliament on June 6th under the chairmanship of Deputy Minister of Finance and Planning Dr. Harshana Surya Peruma to discuss the overall operations of the Excise Department and the implementation of its security feature management system. Officials of the Excise Department stated before the committee that 98 billion rupees in excise revenue had been generated by May 31st, 2025, representing 104% of the target set for the first quarter. The income generated as of May 31st last year was 88 billion rupees, and accordingly this year's income has increased by 10 billion rupees. Excise officials further said that of the 242 billion rupee excise revenue target for the year 2025, 240 billion is expected to be collected from liquor and 2 billion from BD. Upon Deputy Minister Surya Peruma's inquiry about the progress of the newly initiated program to identify counterfeit liquor bottles by scanning a security sticker with a QR code affixed to bottles through a mobile application, officials said that no liquor bottles with fake stickers have been found during raids since the introduction of the system in late 2024. The Deputy Minister pointed out that this program for verifying the authenticity of liquor bottles, which is currently limited to officials, should also be made accessible to the public in future. He also emphasized the need to conduct surprise raids to identify counterfeit liquor bottles on sale in liquor outlets, including supermarkets and hotels, using this new system. Meanwhile, with officials pointing out the need to eliminate loopholes in the Excise Act, the committee informed officials to submit relevant proposals. During the meeting, attention was also focused on the possibility of producing quality alcohol at a reasonable price, since the increase in alcohol prices leads to an increase in the consumption of illegal alcohol.
Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe is scheduled to appear before the Criminal Investigation Department tomorrow. Former President Wickremesinghe has been summoned to provide a statement with regard to a complaint lodged by former Minister of Health Keheliya Ramukwala in relation to the importation of substandard human immunoglobulin vaccines. The CID has already recorded statements from several ministers from the previous government as part of the investigation related to the complaint. The Department of Meteorology issued an amber advisory for strong winds tomorrow, while forecasting that rains could continue over the next few days. Strong winds of about 50 to 60 kilometers per hour can be expected at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa, central, southern, northern, north central and northwestern provinces and in the Trincomalee district due to the active southwest monsoon conditions. Meanwhile, fairly strong winds of about 30 to 40 kilometers per hour can be expected at times elsewhere in the island. According to the Met Department's general forecast, valid until 4 a.m. on the 12th of June, showers or thunder showers are expected at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa, central and northwestern provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts. Heavy rains of about 100 millimeters are likely at some places in the western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in the Norelia, Kandy, Galle and Mathura districts, while several spells of showers may occur in the northern and northwestern provinces and in the Anuradhapura and Hambantota districts. Welcome back. Now in your business news, the Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe says the Credit Information Bureau of Sri Lanka must integrate alternative financial data sources in order to assess the creditworthiness of those who have been excluded from formal financial data sectors. Joining an event organized by the Credit Information Bureau, the CBSL chief also highlighted the need to incorporate emerging technologies into the financial sector and the importance of strengthening data protection and cybersecurity in the country. Meanwhile, the General Manager of the Credit Information Bureau, Pushpika Jayasundara, said the CRIB will be introducing a separate platform that will enable MSMEs and underbanked individuals to use movable assets as collateral to obtain loans going forward.
The annual CEO Conference 2025 and the Institutional Rating Award ceremony, organized by the Credit Information Bureau of Sri Lanka, were held recently in Colombo with the participation of Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe.
We are currently engaged in the following strategic initiatives: developing a dynamic MSME credit score, incorporating alternative data to create profiles for underserved businesses; a blended score developing in collaboration with Lanka Rating, which combine credit risk with affordability matrix using AI; a gold loan score benchmarked with Kitco pricing, offering tailored market risk assessments for this asset class; a revival score designed to reflect the unique circumstances of borrowers adversely affected by external shocks; a dedicated credit report tailored to the requirements of the microfinance sector. In addition, we are progressing steadily towards cross-border data sharing, supporting both migrant workers and foreign investors to Sri Lanka. To empower data-driven decisions, CRIB has also launched advanced business analytic tools, offering institutions actionable insights to market concentration, risk exposure, and delinquency levels. We will be launching Monitoring and Alert, a sophisticated portfolio management tool enabling banks and finance companies to manage their large credit portfolios with real-time insights. Credit Stat, an analytical dashboard that provides institutions with detailed monthly performance metrics covering market penetration, risk exposure, delinquency trends. In July 2025 this year, we will launch the Secure Transaction Registry. This platform will enable MSMEs and underbanked individuals to use movable assets as collateral.
So going forward, what I'd like to highlight some of the areas already this is in the plan in terms of leveraging and emerging technologies. Incorporating artificial intelligence, machine learning and big data analytics can transform credit assessment and enable CRIB to offer productive insights and customized solutions. Secondly, integrating the alternative data sources. By capturing data beyond traditional banking transactions, CRIB can help assess the creditworthiness of more of those currently excluded from formal financial service sector, such as informal sector workers, gig economy participants and youths, those who may not have direct information on their credit, but still the other information. Incorporating that can be a very useful tool to assess creditworthiness of the people who are coming into the market new. And although while we are moving technology, it's also important to strengthen data protection and cybersecurity. Obviously, we have seen a lot of challenges even within our systems. As a custodian of sensitive credit information, CRIB must continue to uphold the highest standards of data privacy and system security. Now, the government has a very highest priority to enhance and provide more digital public infrastructure, especially in terms of unique digital ID. Once you have that facility, I'm sure these services can be much more useful.
The Public Utilities Commission announced the revised electricity tariffs for the second half of 2025 will be announced before the end of this week. A public consultation was conducted regarding the Ceylon Electricity Board's proposed tariff revision, which includes a proposed 18.3% increase. The process of reviewing written and verbal public feedback is now in its final phase. Additionally, the assessment of the proposal's compliance with the tariff methodology is also nearing completion. Accordingly, PUCSL noted that the final decision on what the electricity tariffs will be for the next 6 months and when they will be implemented can likely be announced within this week. That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you. Have a great night.